Right now, as you're listening to this, Drem, your brain is not just hearing words, it's seeing, it's moving, it's syncing itself to another mind. This is not metaphor. This is neuroscience.
And we are diving deep into that, into storytelling, which is such a fundamental human activity for you, for everyone.
We've got a whole stack of sources here, fMRI studies, cognitive theory, and our mission really is to get at one core question. What is actually happening in your brain when you listen to a story?
We're going to unpack the neural and cognitive gears that are turning, the ones that allow you to step inside a narrative world.
Okay, let's jump right in. The very first thing a story has to do. The immediate goal isn't just to, pass on information. It's to create something called neural coupling.
Neural coupling. Think of it like tuning two radios to the same frequency.
Okay.
It's this matching of brain activity patterns, the speakers and the listeners. Now, aligning the sensory stuff, the sounds, the rhythm, that's the easy part. It's almost automatic.
But the real challenge is aligning something deeper.
Exactly. It's aligning the conceptual processing. Getting both brains to understand the world the story is building in the same way.
Which is hard because we all come to the story with our own baggage, right? Our own memories, our own perspectives. The research calls them filters.
That's the perfect word for it. Those filters shape everything. The speaker is sending out these complex ideas, but you, the listener, you're receiving them through your entire life's experience.
So if I have say, a skeptical filter about a political story, or I just can't relate to a character's life at all, the coupling just fails.
It can, yes. And if that synchronization fails, the story just becomes noise. It's abstract data. But if it succeeds, then you achieve a state known as transportation.
Right. Transportation. And we all know what that feels like. You look up from a book and realize 3 hours have just vanished. You forget where you are.
That's it. It's an incredible allocation of attention. Your brain is dedicating so many resources to simulating the story that it shuts down your awareness of the outside world.
The world literally disappears.
It does.
But if attention is the fuel for this, how fragile is that connection? I mean, my phone is buzzing right now. Does that just shatter the whole thing?
It is incredibly fragile. The sources are very clear on this. The brain needs this intense, singular focus. Even a little bit of cognitive load, a tiny distraction, can break that coupling.
And then your brain has to scramble to catch up.
It has to completely reset and try to resynchronize.
Wow. Okay, so this intense focus, it leads us right to the next big finding. When we're transported, our brain isn't just processing abstract data, it's running a full-on simulation.
This is the concept of embodied simulation. Your brain activates its sensory and motor regions in response to the story, as if you were actually there.
Wait a second. So if a story says a character is tearing a piece of paper, my brain isn't just thinking about that, it's actually firing up the muscles I would use to tear paper.
That is exactly right. And it's been measured. There's a phenomenon called motor resonance, and they used transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, to demonstrate it.
So you can actually see this happening in real time. What did the TMS show?
It showed that when subjects just listened to action sounds, someone typing, or that tearing paper sound, the excitability in their corresponding hand muscles spiked immediately.
So your body is physically preparing to act out the story.
It's co-opting your body's own wiring to build that world inside your mind.
That feels like a lot of work for the brain to be doing. What's the point? What's the evolutionary advantage of this full-body simulation?
It's incredibly practical. Think of fiction as a kind of flight simulator for life.
A flight simulator?
It strengthens and refines the neural pathways you need to navigate complex real-world problems, especially social problems. You get to practice, but without the real-world consequences.
And this all relies on some really deep mental architecture. The sources talk about something called image schemata. That sounds pretty abstract.
It does, but the concept is very grounded. Think of schemata as the cognitive scaffolding that your own physical body generates. They're basic structures of meaning that come directly from your earliest experiences of being a body in the world.
Okay, can you give an analogy? How does a physical experience build an abstract idea?
The classic example is the container schema. Your entire life, you have been inside things, a room, a car, your clothes. You have a deep physical understanding of being in or out of a boundary.
Ah, I see. So when we say someone is falling into a depression or getting out of a rut, my brain is using that physical in or out logic of the container to understand that emotional state instantly.
Precisely.
Yep.
Or take the force schemata. Our constant experience with gravity, with pushing and pulling, that physical sense of resistance, becomes the template for understanding abstract things like social pressure or internal conflict.
So we use these physical blueprints to connect to a story. which means we connect emotionally. And that brings us to mirror neurons.
Yes, the tiny miracles, as one source puts it, that bind us together. They are the essential circuitry for empathy.
So when I listen to a character in distress, my mirror neurons aren't just noting it.
They are recreating those feelings inside of you. You aren't just observing the emotion. You are, on a neural level, experiencing it yourself.
That's called experience taking, right? And it seems to depend on identification.
It does. Identification is that process where you temporarily lose your own self-awareness, and it gets replaced by this intense emotional and cognitive connection to a character. You literally, for a moment, take on their perspective.
That level of connection it's staggering. It seems to challenge the whole idea that we're all completely separate individuals.
It really does.
Mhm.
It points toward what neuroscientists call primary intersubjectivity, a state where our neurons embody both the self and the other at the same time. The boundary just dissolves.
So in that moment of deep narrative engagement, our separateness is kind of an illusion.
In that simulated context, yes. The processing is nearly identical to a real experience, which is why stories with high emotional content have such a pronounced, lasting effect. The emotion reinforces the learning from the simulation.
Let's connect this to how we experience time. This whole narrative simulation is deeply linked to the brain's default mode network, the DMN.
Right, the DMN. That's the network that hums to life when your mind is turned inward, when you're thinking about yourself, remembering the past, planning for the future.
And the research found a fascinating link here, that when DMN activity goes up, self-reflection, so does activity in the mirror neuron areas simulating others.
Exactly, which suggests a direct link, that we practice being ourselves by constantly simulating being other people.
And it's not just our sense of self. Narrative seems to give structure to life itself. Reality is just this continuous, overwhelming stream of information.
And narrative is how we manage it. It segments that stream into graspable units. It gives events a beginning, a middle, and an end.
It's a process of chunking, essentially, giving time a structure so that we can understand it and remember it.
Yes, and beyond that, narrative acts as a scaffold for what's called folk psychology.
Okay, folk psychology. Let's break that down.
It's just the everyday, mostly unconscious tool we use to make sense of people. We're constantly trying to figure out their intentions, their beliefs, their desires,
Yeah.
the reasons they act the way they do.
So when I'm listening to a story and trying to figure out a character's motivation, I'm actually exercising my folk psychology muscles.
You're in the training gym. And stories are the primary equipment. They give you an endless supply of agents with clear actions and consequences, which refines your ability to interpret human behavior in the real world.
And this gets scaled up for whole communities, right, with stories inside of stories, narrative embedding.
Yes, it's how we pull together all these different accounts to build a coherent history.
Yeah.
And that history is vital for learning from the past to navigate the present.
Okay, let's try to pull these threads together. What we're saying is that when you're listening to a story, your brain is doing so much more than processing sound. It's a simulation engine, it's a moral laboratory, it's a time machine.
And this deep biological craving we have for stories, it's not just for fun. It's an evolutionary adaptation, a huge one. It let our ancestors practice navigating incredibly complex social worlds without taking the actual risks.
But, and this is where it gets really interesting for me, this constant training, this simulation, it's not neutral. It actively shapes our beliefs about how the world is supposed to work.
Absolutely. If you connect this to the bigger picture, you see that the stories we consume are constantly marinating our brains in certain ideas, like, for instance, poetic justice.
Right. The idea that good people are always rewarded and bad people are always punished.
And when your brain runs that simulation over and over again, you can start to cultivate what psychologists call a just world belief.
You start to think that the real world works that way, that success is always deserved and failure is always earned.
Even when reality is often far more chaotic and, frankly, more unjust than the stories we tell ourselves.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now?
It means the neural simulation, the motor resonance, the emotional training, it all works whether the story is labeled fact or fiction. Your brain practices regardless.
Which raises a really important question.
If narratives are the primary instrument your mind uses to organize time, to assign meaning, and to simulate reality, how often are you consciously auditing the stories you consume, the fiction, the news, even your own internal self-narrative, to check if your brain is practicing for a world that actually exists?